Hello, my name's Lloyd Anderson and I'm an actor.
Ian, great to chat to you. I was kind of joking with you beforehand about the change in appearance, coming out of lockdown appearance. Let's say, for those who don't know, you had a bushy head of hair up to quite recently.
Yeah. I've gone for the Luke Kelly looks. My wife wanted me to get rid of it, and then one morning she told me I looked like Luke Kelly, and I went, "That's enough for me," so I kept it.
You didn't get a picture of yourself standing down behind the statue down in Sheriff Street, no?
Absolutely, yeah. My agent actually was slagging me one day, and he sent me a message of a picture of me with that hair, but he'd drawn the glasses on me that they kept doing to that poor statue.
Come here to me. Thanks a million for taking part in this. And come here. Was a young Ian destined to be an actor? Do you think now, looking back, was it something that you were always into?
No. I was kind of I was one of those kids where I did a little bit of I did sort of drama classes when I was really young, you know, and I didn't I loved it. Like, I think at the time I was getting older, so just do that now. But as you get older, I suppose you sort of shy away from it. But I did these drama classes with a woman called Bernie Delaney. She still has speech and drama school out in the north side, I think. But I kind of, you know, you get to a certain age, then you get a bit older and you become kind of too cool for it or whatever it is, you know. And so I never really thought of it. And then I was in secondary school then, and I got asked to do this school play, basically. They're doing a musical, they're doing Fiddler on the Roof. And by this stage, you know, I was all about, like, you know, I was a young fella, 16 or something, kissing girls and smoking fags in the lane, all that crack. And you kind of go, there's no way, because the lads would have ripped into me if I was doing a musical, especially. But I had this amazing music teacher, and she was really encouraging about anything that I kind of did in terms of performance, you know, with, you know, singing and musical instruments and that kind of thing. She was brilliant. I reference her quite often in interviews. And Fanula Howard was her name, and she kind of said to me, look, will you just do this thing? She wanted me to play this Tevier part, kind of this lead part, you know what I mean? And I did it, and I kind of played down that I was secretly really enjoying this, you know. There's a couple of other lads there that have gone on to have really good acting careers, Fionn Walton and Brian Gleeson. Like, we were all in it, like, and I did, and I secretly loved it, and then I thought nothing more of it, you know. But quietly, it kind of was eating away, and I was thinking, maybe there's a career in this, maybe you can actually do this. But I hadn't a clue. I was so green to the whole thing. I never went to plays. I didn't even watch much on TV. I wasn't a big film buff, but I loved this kind of performance thing. But I was a show off, and that's no good as an actor. You know, it's not, because I think that's been the thing that you iron out then, and that's why you got the drama school, because it's not it. That's what was feeding my kind of buzz, but I wasn't really aware that was like, that'll kill you as an actor, you know.
Like, go back to was like, when you say you weren't kind of into TV or when watching an awful lot of film or stay, like, were you with the lads you were hanging around with, were you like into sports? Were you kind of
yeah, I was playing everything. Like, I was playing soccer, I was playing tennis to a good level, I was playing golf, I was playing everything.
Okay.
Everything. That's all I was interested in, really. Not all. Like, look, I had other interests. But this kind of specific interest that was growing in me, that had probably always been there, was something that, you know, see, I think only looking back you realise that you're an insecure teenager who thinks, oh, that's not cool enough, you know. Now I think you know, anyone who does it, particularly young, when I see young 17, 18-year-old people going into drama school, I think they're the coolest fuckers in the world, you know. It's gutsy, it's ballsy, and it's not easy, and it's not the norm, you know what I mean? And anything like that to go against, because it's a kind of a, you know, it's a very against the grain career choice, you know. We all know, with the lack of security even entering into it, and sometimes that only grows over time, but it's such a fruitful endeavor, do you know what I mean?
And you were saying that you did music, that you play?
Yeah, I played a bit of fiddle and that, but like, it's no high level or anything. But I was kind of able to sing. I think years of booze and fags have put paid that. Thankfully, the fags are gone, but the booze will stay.
Yeah.
But you kind of, you know, I think there was that was my kind of outlet for performance as I got older. You'd do a bit in the school, or it'd be, you know, whatever, an evening where you'd be asked to do something, or you know, I always really enjoyed that. But
Yeah.
with your process with the acting, it's like, you know, I get a bit sort of not mathematical about it, but there's such a formula to find with each thing that you do as an actor, you know, figure your way out and figure your way in, and then make it look like you're not doing it. No, you're not figuring anything. You know what I mean? It's like yeah, it still fascinates me, you know.
When you were heading towards then leaving school, like, you know, like was there another career in your head? Was there kind of, you know,
No,
do you have any other
no,
idea what you might be?
no, I shook them all off at some point in sixth year. I remember thinking I wanted to be a vet, but like at that point I was like, and I was doing okay in school. I was doing all honor subjects, but oh yeah, I totally took my foot off the gas. In fact, I think I even told my parents that I'd gotten into drama school before I'd actually received a letter. You see, I tried out for Trinity and I got the call back, and myself, and first day I met Big Jer Kelly and Connor Madden, two of my peers, two great actors, and we all got through the first round of auditions, you know, and you go up in Trinity and you're looking at the board, and your name is there, you know, and you see other people going up and they got bollocks and they go off, and we're there, and we'd gone off for lunch together, the three of us. We'd never met, and we came back and we all got a second, you know, this afternoon callback thing where we had to do, I think, two speeches, to do a Shakespeare piece. And you know, like Shakespeare, to me, all I was thinking was, I hate Shakespeare, because I had to do it in school. I hate Shakespeare, and I did something else. I did some piece, probably from Philadelphia, Here I Come, I think. And yeah, and I went up, and Jer Kelly still slags me about it, because he says I came down after that, after my Hamlet piece. Oh my God. And he says, how'd you get on? I said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get in, man. I think I squeezed out a tear there, you know, bollocks. And he still never lets it go. He's often been heard shouting that story over a bar to someone at 1 a.m. while I'm standing in the background mortified. But yeah, I didn't get in. Anyway, I didn't get in. There was people there. Andrea Ainsworth, I think, was sat at that table. I reminded her that a few times over the years. But yeah, I didn't get in, and then I kind of found out about the Gaiety, and I said, I'll give it a go. Someone said to me, why don't you try it for the part-time 1 year thing? And I thought, no, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, you know. And yeah, and I did, and I got in, and I told my parents I was in before I found out I was in, took my foot off the gas during the leaving and all that, and then I did get in, and yeah, it was just from there, 2 years of two of the best years, some of the best mates. But I was terrible. I didn't know what I was doing. And we was in a really strong year from the Gaiety that year. And I think that helped, because it would have lifted us all. It was a really strong year. People who've gone on to have really good careers, you know. And yeah, I thought, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was embarrassed all the time. And you lose your inhibitions, and I think that's a big part of it. That's a really important part of it. I'm still jealous of a lot of actors, guys I meet sometimes. You meet them usually more often on film sets and stuff, where they kind of rock up and you go, I don't know who this guy is. I've never heard of this guy. How do I not know who this guy is? And all of a sudden you see them go and they just have no inhibitions. It's like kind of incredible.
Yeah, yeah. And did you find that sense of finding your tribe when you went into college? Was it kind of like an awakening of kind of, this is what I want, this is kind of the area I want to be?
Slowly. If I'm really honest, I thought a lot of it was kind of bollocksology, and that's not the Gaiety itself. That's the acting training. I thought, this is bollocks. Why am I pretending to be a tree? What is, you know? Because I think because I never fully let go of, you know, I'm too cool. You know, that took a long time. Probably lots of fuckers will still tell you he still hasn't let go of it. But anyway. But there was an element of me kind of going, no, what am I doing here? Why am I wasting my time doing this? I just want to act. And I knew the stuff that I wanted to do. I wanted to do, like, you know, it was forever, like, they'd go, do a monologue tomorrow. And I'd go, great, turn up, Marco Rowe, you know, Conor McPherson, you know. And slowly over time, I think it drip feeds in. Even after drama school, it drip feeds in your appreciation for it and your understanding of what drama is, of what acting is, of what brilliant playwriting is, of structurally what brilliant playwriting is. And you meet people and they change your view. And sometimes they change your view and you only realize it after, you know, 2 years of meeting them, and you go, oh, that's where that came from. You know, I always talk about, there was a time was one of my really, really early gigs in the Abbey, you know, where I was kind of only just kind of one rung up the ladder from spear carrying. And I always remember in a rehearsal room, we'd wear these, it was a period piece, and we'd wear these kind of heels. And Nick Dunning sort of said to me, well, try walking like this, you know. And in my head, I thought, fuck you now, you know, you never tell another actor how to walk, you know, me, still green as. And I kind of really resented him for it. But 2 years later, I kind of thought, like, I didn't hold anything, but I thought, don't do that to me. You know, 2 years later, I thought, I know what he was getting at there. Fair play to him. Great fella as well, you know, that's not, but I had taken it the wrong way. So it was about, again, dropping your guard and understanding that no one's out to do you, you know. And I think that was a part of it. You realize that there's a competitive nature to this business about getting the job, but it can't be competitive when you get the job. That's when it becomes company and becomes, you know, you have to be cohesive and you've got to work with people. And all those people were working with me, but you're afraid of that, you know, early doors.
That's a really, really interesting point, though, that's kind of overlooked an awful lot in life generally, but I think in our career, is that, you know, as a director, you often have to keep saying to actors, like, you pass the audition, you're in the room. So it's not about, but that fear of bringing the competitiveness into that collaborative space is a problem. You know, it kind of, it's about, as you say, it's about letting go of yourself, letting go of your ego, letting go of that kind of fear. But they're hard, particularly when you're a young actor, they're hard lessons to learn.
They are. They're really difficult. And I think even, you know, like, I'm at this crack now, probably 12 years, I think. And, you know, I don't think I have fully let go of that. But I don't know if I ever will. Like, I'm very insecure as an actor. I don't think it comes across always, but I am. But I think what you do is, instead of learning to not do those things, you learn to control them. And you learn also when to use them. And I think insecurity as an actor is really important, because I think and a bit of doubt. I have huge self-doubt as an actor. I push it down, but I never want to let go of it, because I think that's, you know, and it's a fine line, because you don't want to be that guy going, I'm terrible in this, tell me I'm great, you know, I'm so bad in this, you know, you hear it all the time, and it's not, you can't sort of say, you can't want people or make people tell you that you're doing the right things or you're doing it well. You have to understand when you are and understand when it can improve. And I think that self-doubt, it allows you to kind of look at what you're doing and be really honest with yourself. So it's an important kind of a tool. It's not something I'd like to get rid of, as much as it can frustrate me by times.
Well, I think that's, I mean, again, you know, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. I think that sense of, you know, and it kind of triggers into the real world and into the acting world, that sense of vulnerability, or because people are terrified of it, but in a way it's kind of an artist's fuel, that you have to be able to sit with it, control it obviously, but not be, and that's the danger in an industry that's so fickle and so much about your own waiting on phone calls, getting rejections. It's extraordinarily difficult to kind of keep that balance where it's not about you, you know, where it's about your work.
But I always think all my favorite actors, their most amazing quality is their vulnerability, and I think vulnerability is so important. Like, I don't want to watch an actor on stage who is not able to show weakness, or is so preoccupied with how they fucking look that they're afraid to be ugly. Or I don't want to see that. It's uninteresting to me. But the people who are able to be vulnerable, and not just go, I'm playing vulnerable now, but genuinely allow themselves to look vulnerable, allow themselves to understand that someone has this incredible punchline across the stage, and it gets a huge laugh every night, but to really kind of quietly in their own head know that tiny reaction where they might have just done nothing is actually feeding what's happening in the audience as much as that hilarious punchline. And actually, if you took that out, that wouldn't happen. So there is a kind of a real science to it, and it's, you know, that's what I was saying earlier to you about, like, you're constantly kind of figuring these little things out. It's such a map, you know.
Yeah, and that's what's very exciting about it, you know, as a career and as an art form, is that kind of, you know, mash of scientific and esoteric, or, you know, aesthetic, is kind of, that's, yeah, the scientific and the emotional, where they sit together, is kind of a really interesting space to try and find.
Yeah, definitely.
Come here to me then. When you came out, was it, you know, right, where's my career, or, you know, was it kind of what?
No, it was like, I was like, what is this? I think I got it twisted initially. I was doing I was doing my graduation play from the Gaiety, and I got cast in a film. Really, like I wasn't even finished, and I got like 10 days on a film, and I wasn't even on great money, but it was great money for a young fella, you know. It was like, and I thought, Jesus, this is all right. And then I got a play, and it was like at the time when, you know, there was like mad touring companies. It was Gallo Glass, and you were on like decent wage. You were getting put up. You were on 50 quid a day per diems. You were like, I was going, hang on a minute, like forget about the fact that like at one point in my life I thought I could be a vet. This is where the money's at. And then very quickly that stopped. And you know, I'm not one of those guys. I didn't come out and hit the ground running. Like I didn't get an agent. It took me a while, and I ended up getting into one of the co-ops. I ended up in Castaway, which is great. It was a brilliant place because kind of you could learn the other side of the business, the side of the business that actually you trust someone else to look after for you, but it gives you an appreciation of what goes on behind the scenes. And I stayed there for a good few years, and I would actually recommend it to a lot of young actors because I think it gives you a huge appreciation for how your business works, you know. But I didn't kind of hit the ground running. It all went very quiet for me then, and you know, at that, but your goals change as you go along. So the big goal was always, you know, get into the Abbey. You know, that was the one. That was where you wanted to be. And then about maybe a year and a half after getting out of drama school, I got Jimmy Fay cast me in a really small part in The Irresistible Rise of Arturo Ui, and that was just, I still think back on that and remember walking out on the Abbey stage for the first time, and like, you know, I've played big theatres. Like I've played the Olivier, I've played the National in London, you know, and you know, nothing ever beat that first time on the Abbey ever. Genuinely, and that's not bullshit. Like it's just hallowed ground. Like in that, as kind of wanky as that sounds. Excuse my French.
Yeah.
But it's
yeah, I think there is. I think it's kind of hallowed ground is the best way of kind of phrasing it. You know, there is a sense on that stage of and again, not in a wanky way, but the history that kind of goes with it, but also the sense of what Ireland can be, and Ireland is. And I think that's, you know, I think you can feel that as a performer.
Jesus, yeah. I mean, it's everything. You're going through drama school and you're training. It's everything you dream of. Like you kind of, and like in that company, like so many great actors. Like at the time, you know, Ed O'Kelly was like my big hero. I was like, he's the guy. Like, you know, and he was in that company, and then even a generation beyond that, there was Des Cave, and I think like, and there's me on this, like my first job on that stage, and I'm thinking and even then I was thinking, this is amazing. And when I look back at it now, I go, they are on that stage with the likes of Des Cave, but the reason that stage is what it is because of guys like Des Cave and who kept it, and basically that's why there's an industry there now, is because of guys like him, and then other people who got past the torch and kept it going. And you know, I know a lot of that sounds kind of like sort of bullshitty kind of idealistic kind of stuff, but it kind of, for me, it matters because it's such a high bar. It's the place to get to, you know. I don't know. I'm sure loads of young actors don't feel that way now. You know, there's so much more to do. There's more jobs out there in terms of film and TV. There's definitely not in terms of theatre. But at the time, that was just like amazing. You know, 8 weeks and run in the Abbey was like, this is unbelievable.
And come here, then. I mean, you know, when you have that part, when you get into the company, when you get into the rehearsal room, and it's kind of a seminal piece of work as well. I mean, an awful lot of things kind of happened around. You know, there was people at different stages of their career, and Jimmy himself. There was kind of things bouncing off that. And when you came out of that, was like, okay, now you've done a lot in the Abbey, and along with kind of, you know, Fish Amble and the Gate, and you know, the national. But you know, it seemed to have started a kind of an ongoing over the last decade, a relationship with that theatre and our artists to kind of work in and out of it.
How do you mean, for me or in general?
You know, for you.
Yeah, but you know, at that time it was kind of, I guess looking back on it, you don't realise it when you're in it, but at the time it was a sort of, there were stepping stones. So the next job I did, I had a little bit more to do. And then again, and then you start to get trusted with, you know, a little more, and you kind of, and also over that time, then you're developing a real awareness of how to work in that building, and then, you know, everything. Like, the more comfortable you are backstage, the more comfortable you are on stage. It's like, you get to know the place, and yeah, probably over the years, I don't know, I've probably done, I'd say easily 13 or 14 shows in there, and each time it's, you know, I haven't worked there for a long time now, but yeah, it just, yeah, I kind of, I got to a great point. I remember at one point I got to a point where, like, it was like for 2 years I was in there, like constant, and it was amazing, and I was very lucky, and I was able to really kind of, you know, learn my trade essentially, and it was really, I feel very blessed because of that. There was that, particularly those couple of years where I was going from, I think around the time I did plays like There Isn't People and A Few and Evil Days, and there was kind of different sizes of parts and different things, but I think that was very formative for me in terms of theatre work.
But also, as you say, the work itself and the people, you know, the plays, you know, you mentioned There Isn't People, and there was a moment in time around that work, both from a socio-political point of view and artistic point of view, and obviously The Noble Call had huge long resonances.
Yeah.
But beyond all that, it was a wonderful production, and I think it was kind of, you know, you kind of trace your career and those seminal Dublin roles that you've both new formed ones, but also, you know, The Plough and then The Stars, which obviously was the lyric Hammersmith in the game.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, from The Risen People to Alice in Wonderland to, you know, In Our Veins to Dublin Old School, there's a kind of you both made new work and made new parts, but also made things. I mean, I think The Plough and the Stars, you know, without blowing smoke, I think that was probably the best production of that play I've ever seen. And I think Jack Clitheroe was just, I said at the after, was just incredible what kind of happened between those characters. That must have been an absolute joy to be kind of part of.
Yeah, it was. It was. I think, you know, someone like me who like, I have this sort of, I don't know where it came from, but this deep appreciation of what the Abbey is, to do it there on, you know, in a centenary, and then to, like, take it around America and to open it up, because that was a thing that Sean Holmes, who directed it, you know, the thing about that part, and me and Kate were very comfortable working together because we've done a lot of that kind of stuff together, that kind of like couples and physical kind of contact stuff. So that made it very easy, because day one rehearsals, we'd just go. We were like, let's go. We were fine with each other. We knew our boundaries, you know, we'd figured all that out years ago, you know. But to be able to kind of really kick open the kind of the sex in that play, and the kind of, you know, these people, they were living one on top of the other. As soon as the house was empty, they were up on top of each other, literally. Like, it was, and we were able to, and Sean let us go with that, and it just opened the whole thing up, and able to have loads of fun with it. And it was great fun, but you kind of also felt like we were revamping this thing, but we weren't taking the piss, and we weren't sort of taking liberties with it. It still stayed very true. Not a word changed.
Yeah.
I think the only thing was we didn't do the woman from Rathmine scene, but most of the time they don't.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing thing to be involved with. I was really proud of that. I feel like at that point, I always felt like that was kind of a turning point for me.
Okay. Yeah, because I mean, I think you're absolutely right. There was no revamping. It was actually just exploring the play as a piece of work.
Yeah.
In a way, and probably because I think he said at the time that he hadn't seen it before, that it was kind of like it was separate from maybe baggage that would have normally kind of been there, and with that, you know, the parts were kind of minted new. And I think for you, I mean, if you look at it from there, you know, recently, obviously people would know you from, you know, both the play and the film of Dublin Old School, and we kind of get that in a minute, and Love, Hate, and kind of, you know, and then your amazing performance, which is about to come out in the autumn in Herself, you know. So there's kind of there's a kind of bleeding between TV and film and stage, which has happened. Does that come naturally to you, Ian? Is that something that you kind of like? Is it hard to kind of do?
I do now. I didn't at one point. I didn't have much confidence in my. It's funny, you know, this side of my skill set felt like it was growing. This stage side, and this film and TV side was just like nowhere. And I thought, oh, I just don't know. Maybe I'm just not one of those guys. I just don't know how to do it. and I'd done like 4 seasons of Love Hate, but it was I only really got a great kind of bash at it in the sort of the 5th series, you know. Um, up until then, I've been kind of doing bits and bobs, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was brilliant. It was like I could quietly go about learning how to do all this, and you're watching, you know, Aidan Gillen and Pete Coonan and Tom and these guys, and you're going, okay, I'm good like that. I will constantly watch and learn and ask if I have to. I didn't always, but as I've got older, I will ask if I don't know. Grant, there's no shame in not knowing something. You only know by knowing, so you've got to ask. But that steadily has grown, and then obviously when we filmed Dublin Old School, my confidence had really kind of gone up, and I felt good about myself. And since then I've really kind of, I feel like I certainly haven't mastered it, but I know what I'm doing in front of a camera now a lot more than I did. I didn't have confidence. Confidence is everything. Like, you know, when your confidence goes as an actor, that's why so many guys who you constantly see a lot of the same people working, but it's easier to get work when you're working. It's so much harder to get a ball rolling when it ain't moving, but to keep one rolling, it's much easier, you know?
Yeah. And come here, I mean, just to go back to stage for a second before we get, you know, you look at the very early stuff, and you mentioned companies, but I mean, in a way, there was an infrastructure there which doesn't exist. One existed 12 years ago, it doesn't exist anymore. So the likes of, you mentioned Bedrock, you know, there was Carpet Theatre Company, there's stuff from Project Gallaglass, you know, Live and Dread, and they were great for young actors and big tours that kind of, again, around the country. And that, did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy that kind of touring bit?
I loved it, man. They were the best of days. Like, when I think of some of it, like, I still be laughing telling stories about, like, that. Like, there was a Live and Dread one. We toured for like 8 or 9 weeks doing Observe the Sons of Ulster marching towards the Somme, and it was, you know, Ian McElhenney was playing old Piper, and then there was 8 lads, and we were all in and around sort of from the age of, I don't know, 38, 39 to sort of 24, 25, and it was like, and all kind of chums and having a great time, but learning our trade at the same time, you know. A lot of guys were established, you know, at that time, you know, Marty Ray and Rory Nolan, they were well on their way then, but there was myself and John Cronin and Kieran O'Brien, really, really super actors. Carl Quinn, who's still to me one of the most underrated actors in the country, but it was just great, you know. It was just really, really great, and you got to, you know, I think it's important. People, young actors particularly, have to be able to make mistakes, and they can make. You know, you hear people go, "Oh, you need these smaller theatres so that they can learn their trade, make mistakes." You can make mistakes on the Abbey as well, because it's live theatre, and that's what happens. And you never get it all right, and you never get it all wrong. You know, like in a career of, like, I have had things where I know I've been good in. I have things that I think I was bad in, and other people think I was good in. I have the things where I know I was really shit. Like, even recently, one or two where I go, oof. When you constantly think you let yourself down, you constantly think that's the end of it now, I got found out. You had a good run of it, but they found you out. And I always say that to young actors. I go, you know, you're allowed to be shit. Like, you can't be brilliant all the time, because not everything's going to be right for you. And sometimes someone's going to throw you a bone, and the bone just doesn't fucking suit you. And, you know, but that's the way it is. It's not, you know, when you push all the bullshit away, it's not life and death. It's important because people are trying to make a living off it. So you know you've got to be on it, but you're allowed to, you know, have a bad one and still be a fucking good actor.
Yeah.
You know, it's such a fear, and I think that kind of thing will take away from anyone then ever taking any risks.
Yeah.
You know.
And come here, the as well in your career, there's been kind of, you know, a mixture between brand new plays. You know, you've done a lot of work with Fish Amble as well, and other companies. But that difference in making a character anew or revisiting something, like, where's the head in that, Ian? Like, what is there different approach, or does it just depend on the individual company and play?
I think it depends. I think when it's a new play, if it's an old play, you can YouTube whoever played it before you. I'm joking. But I think you can kind of have, you can very often with the older plays, you have, particularly the Irish ones, you have an awareness of what they are, because you've been surrounded by them, you've heard stories of them, even if you haven't read them, you've heard about them, you know, over the years. But with new plays, you have such license to, you know, do whatever you want and kind of take it your own way, and also make something your own. And you have a writer and who trusts you to do that. And sometimes those writers are, you know, top writers, and you go, okay, this person trusts me to do it. Okay, well then that the confidence that that instills you in yourself, or instills in you, is huge. But it's you I guess you just think it's another job in a way, because you're never thinking about someone might play this after me, because that's a weird thing to think. Do you know what I mean? So it's all just in the moment, really.
Yeah.
I just weird answer. I don't even know what I said to you there, Mark. But
No, you're right. No, but I think I mean they're two very different things. And I remember you hear with Fish Amble for Dublin Theatre Festival with Sean's Bruising the Clouds, which kind of, it was a great play and a great part, and
lovely.
And a brilliant writer. But I think,
brilliant writer.
Yeah, really, really. I kind of capture something of Dublin that is kind of, yeah, it's unique in a way to his voice. You know,
I think he's incredible, and I wish we could see more from him. I've done 3 of his plays, and I think I think his writing has been atrociously misunderstood by critically by people. I really do. I have a real issue with it, to be honest. But that's not. I'm not going to start attacking anyone over it. But I think he's been atrociously overlooked, critically by people. He's one of the most. He's gifted, and he because they don't have these huge, big sort of dramatic arcs. These plays, they're snapshots of what people are and how they exist and how they do it. And very few people write it. It's brilliant. I really do believe that. I think it's, you know. I think because he doesn't adhere to the kind of rules. He doesn't. I mean, he doesn't anyway. But he's just a brilliant guy with an incredible mind.
No, he has, and kind of, you know, there's work that's kind of standing as new work kind of emerging as well, which is kind of really interesting from him as well. I read a couple of pieces recently, which are great. Come here to me. Then you go back and you kind of yourself and Emmett. You know, how did that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Me and Emmett have been. It's so funny. Like, we've become this kind of like duo. You know, it's gas. But it's like I was a bit of a fan of Emmett when I was coming through drama school. He was one of those guys. Oh, this guy's really cool. And then I came out and did a reading of a play, actually a Sean McLaughlin play in the Abbey, with Emmett. And that's when we first met. And I was kind of trying to be real cool around him, you know. I'd seen all that Fraser Phrase stuff that he was doing around the time of the election, all the rock the vote gear back in, I mean, what was that, 2007, 2008, 2009. And he was really cool. Like, I just thought he was a really cool bloke. I don't think he's cool anymore, by the way. But so we kind of became quite friendly, and like, we were never best mates around, but we'd always have a pint and have a good laugh, and we were on the same wavelength. And then we were working together doing Major Barbara, and he started kind of mentioning this thing, and we'd done a couple of other plays together before that, and we'd always got on, always shared the dressing room. Yeah, he started mentioning this idea that he had, and I sort of said, yeah, right, yeah, you know the way you do. I went, yeah, I'll do it, yeah, whatever, thinking nothing of it. And then I was starting rehearsals for a play in the Abbey, and the Fringe was going to start. I was doing the theatre festival, so I was doing our Few and Evil Days, Marco Rose play, the theatre festival, and Emmett said, look, it's on, but you'd have to rehearse around the same time, and obviously there was no money in it, and he'd written some of it. And I said, okay. So we did, and he worked it out during the evening. We'd try stuff out during the day. We, you know, eventually got a script together. Then we got Philly McMahon on board. Then Mark would let me out of rehearsals because I only really had this one major long scene in that play, and that was it. And he let me out to kind of do a bit of work with Emmet, and and then we did it in the Fringe, and it just, I mean, it's mad what it became. I still kind of go, wonder what would have happened. You know, not that my career's gone through the roof, but I wonder what my career would be like if I hadn't done Dublin All School, because it's been very important. It's been, you know, it's kind of a part of me as an actor now. It's funny, like.
But it's gas. I mean, you could feel it though in that room. You know, I remember seeing the showcase of it for. Obviously, it was developed through a show in a bag with Mike the Iron. But I remember the showcase. And I went, Jesus Christ Almighty! Just when the two of you burst in, and obviously there was an energy to it, but if you kind of strip back that, again, there was a voice and two performances and Philly's direction there that was kind of brand new. To me, it just felt.
Yeah, we couldn't believe it, Mark. We didn't expect it. It was funny. We kind of thought this is quite good what we're doing here, but you kind of have to think that when you're working on something. We just didn't expect it, and it was kind of amazing. I mean, the whole journey with it has been incredible. You know, I'd love to do it again. No, like, but I think we're probably past that now. But it was just, yeah, I can't explain it. It just caught a moment, didn't it? And it just kind of, people really went for it.
And it also caught a kind of hugely diverse moment as well. I think there was moments and times, I mean, you're involved in a few of them, like the Alice in Wonderland in the Abbey kind of had a cross pollination of different folk being involved in it. I think the Risen People as well, in a way, kind of had that feeling of, and similarly that Plough kind of had a similar, you know, there was kind of things there that were wider than, you know, different audiences. Certainly Dublin Old School, you know, when it made its way to Project, like, that wasn't full of theatre goers. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't, which was great, you know.
Well, man, like, the lads with bags of cans coming in, and like I remember one night there's like a rave scene that like kicks off in the middle of it. When these orange lights are flashing and the music is outrageously loud, you can't hear anything. And me and Emmett are dancing and almost dying from sweat. And I remember looking, and we had to kind of catch each other's eye in the middle of this really kind of insane dance thing that we were doing, so that we'd know when to break it. I remember looking, and there was like two lads up in the front row giving it the large one, like, you know. And so yeah, you used to do brilliant stuff like that, and they used to go mad. Like, it was kind of, yeah, that was kind of, it was a bit rock and roll by the end in the project. It was like getting ridiculous, but it was kind of, I mean, that's, yeah, me and Emmett, Mick Jagger.
And then Mick Jagger and Keith
Richards.
And then London. I mean, that, you know, I thought that's a big thing, you know, to be over there in international with it.
That was just, I couldn't believe it. I mean, because it was funny, you know, we went to the Fringe in Edinburgh and we arrived and we were excited about it, and it was going to be a month, and we rocked down to Pleasance where we were playing, and, you know, I hadn't done my homework on it. I just went, okay, yeah, great, that's where we're playing. We rocked up and it was like fucking two porta cabins stuck together, and I thought, oh, a month of this, like, you know, fuck this. I'm not into this at all. You know, and maybe that's me being up my own arse, but I just thought, no way. Anyway, we had to, because we were getting paid. We got on with it, and it started to sell out there as well. And then there were great reviews. And then all of a sudden, I remember getting a phone call from Emmett going, "Listen, keep it under your hat." But this was, I think I was actually in America then with doing Play on the Stars. He says, "Keep it under your hat, but I think we're going to the National." And I was going, "Who?" He says, with Old School, like. And I went, oh my God, I can't believe it. Because it was such a tiny little thing that we did initially, and to just watch it grow and to get to there, it felt like, you know, wow, what a kind of a stamp of approval to get up into that big concrete jungle and put it on there, and, you know, have our poster outside. And I remember walking across the bridge from, where were we staying? I can't even remember now. I'm brutal with London, but we were walking across the bridge to the National, and that night to open it, and it's always lit up, you know, and it was lit up blue, and we were, gosh, this is outrageous. It wasn't lit up blue for us, but it felt like it was, you know.
And then you did work there again. You did Common, wasn't?
Yeah, I auditioned then for that while I was there doing Dublin Old School, and. Yeah, and then I went back and did it, and it was like, you know, hailed as the greatest flop in the last 10 years in the National. But I didn't give a shit. I loved it. It was incredible. It was a great experience. Brilliant director, Jeremy Herron. He was just brilliant. And I found that was probably the greatest confidence boost I ever got as an actor. It was the first time where I really went, right, I have full confidence in everything I'm doing here, because it was the first time as an actor that I went into a rehearsal room, even since the start of my career, because you always know someone. When I was over there in London, and I didn't know a single person in the room on day one. And I thought, right, instead of curling up and kind of letting and shitting yourself on this, actually get rid of all those inhibitions you have in other rehearsal rooms when you know people and you're afraid to look silly, or you're afraid to do a stupid dance in the middle of something because you don't want the people who you know to kind of think, look, the state of Eno, no one gives a shit. So I really kind of went with that attitude. And it opened me right up, and it shifted loads of little doubts and inhibitions that I would have been holding on to for years as an actor, because there was no one in the room who was going to judge me and I was going to give a shit.
Yeah,
and it was kind of freeing.
That's an interesting point, because you would have people that say are outside the industry and maybe some inside the industry would think be the opposite, but actually you're completely right. Because sometimes when you're with people, your pals or people that you know as colleagues or in the industry, there's a box there that you're in, and you're kind of going, "Fuck," you have to, you don't want to be too much of a whatever. But
No, totally. It's just little. They're just your own stupid little insecurities half the time. But it was just, it was just amazing. And then you're getting into tech, and all of a sudden there's 60 extras in the thing, and you're going 60 extras in a play, and it's just, and they're all sort of like drama school students and that kind of thing, or actors who are trying to get a leg up, and it's just amazing to me. Like, what a place. And at the same time, there's all these other incredible plays happening around you. And Angels in America was on, and you get to know all the other casts, and you're all sitting on. It was brilliant. It was a great time. It was a really great time,
And then movie, and then the Dublin Law School became a film, which
yeah.
An amazing thing. And I suppose, I think, for me looking at you and your career, like your performance in that was just fucking out of this world. There was but I think it was interesting, and I'm very taken by what you said about the kind of the technical aspects, or the scientific, or the kind of the exploration, or the mathematical kind of aspects to exploration, because there's a different thing when you're alive on a stage, being in a moment, to being in a screen, or on a screen in the moment, and because the character became the character. So for you, actually, it's probably the hardest journey in a way, because in the play you're playing everyone fucking in the whole wide world.
Oh, totally. And you don't have that much time to sort of think about it. It was kind of, but then there was the lovely thing was to be able to go, like, I knew that character well, but I was able to kind of suddenly go, I'm going to immerse myself right into this. Because the difference I see, like, and it's great that I've done that same character on stage and on screen, because it kind of really showed me the difference. And people say, oh, they're different. It's two different types of acting. That's bollocks. Acting is acting, and it's the same thing. But there is a difference in the sort of feeling in it. It's like, I always think, like, there's a sort of a sense of, when you're on stage, it's released more, but you have to coil it back. You're keeping a lid on it, and that's not like being quiet or not letting your face go mad. People are worried about all these things on screen all the time. It's just about kind of holding on to it a little tighter or something. It's hard. I can't really explain it, but it was kind of amazing to get to just physically embody one character. And I said, like, look, I've been waiting for years. Like I told you, I was doing a couple of days on this and a couple of days on that, small part here, small part there, standing behind actors in love hate for years and thinking, I can do all these things they're doing. That's not to be big-headed or say I'm better than anyone. But I would stand there every day going, give me a fucking slice of this pie, man, because I know I can. And that might sound arrogant or whatever, but I know I say, like, sometimes I struggle with my confidence, but do quietly and quite vigorously inside myself, I go, I can do that. I know I can do that. And Dublin Law School was the first time that someone gone, yeah, we'll give you that opportunity for you to do that in a sizably budgeted film, real deal. And I thought, all right, if I'm given this opportunity that I've been pissing and moaning about not getting for 10 years, there's no way am I not doing it with every ounce of me,
And you lost a lot of ounces,
Yeah, I did. I lost 2.5 stone. But again, that's all feeds back to the same thing. It was about going, I'm going to I grew, like, in my fingernails, I grew out to here, and I just thought, just do it. Just go mad on that and see what happens. And I did, and thankfully I did. Now, listen, I could have done all that and still been shite in the film. So that doesn't do all the work for you, but it certainly helps. And I'm glad I did, and it's I think it's helped. I think there's been a bit more screen work. There has been more screen work since, and I love it now. And I didn't, I really didn't love screen work. I love it now.
But also what you left on that screen. I mean, I think a word that strikes me through all your work, and particularly ones that are maybe closer to not only Dublin, but kind of that is that dignity. I mean, you gave that character huge dignity. It wasn't a statement about the character. It was, and even in the film that's yet to come out, there's a sense of dignity bizarrely about the people that you play. You're kind of going, there might be, in all the different roles throughout your career, even like back to Jack Clitheroe, there's a dignity that's kind of there, even if they don't realize it themselves. But you as an actor, seem to embody that with the characters, and that makes sense. That at the very base,
Yeah, maybe I do. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think there's always. I don't know. I think you're just always striving to make someone have to be. They have to be real. I always think like for example, you talk about herself, and when I remember shooting that, and that on the page is a baddie. You know, it's a bad guy. But if I'm playing him, I always think, well, I think you've got to love him. Like, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people don't. I don't think bad people sit at home going, "I'm a bad person," you know. Um, Even though they might know it, they kind of, there's somewhere they kind of, I don't know, love themselves. Maybe it comes from that. I remember that. I remember being quite fixated on that when I was filming herself, going, I'm not bad. He's not bad. You know, even though reading it on the page, I knew this wasn't a good man. So maybe it comes from that. I don't really know, to be honest. I think it's always just that thing of striving to make something as real as you can, but, you know, and to stay away from cliches all the time. And Emmett was brilliant. Emmett really opened my eyes on that, just with his skill as a writer and an actor. Particularly when we were doing Old School, and he was so adamant that this character could not, because I was particularly on the stage version, surrounding it with cartoon characters, but this had to be based in realism, and you have to be really careful with that. You have to be more careful doing that on stage because you have to reach. I think you have to be careful because you can very easily slip into caricature as you reach.
Yeah, and then back to the Abbey, or the Abbey building, and the Peacock, for two fantastic pieces, or very different pieces of work. But like Coming Home, I love that play, and again with Philly, I think there was.
It's one of my favourite things I've ever done.
That was just an ensemble, and Rachel brilliantly directed it. That really, and I hope that gets another life, because there is
no idea how much I hope that gets another life, Mark. I think that's my favourite thing. I think, easily one of my top three favourite things I've ever done. Yeah. I adored it. Everything, it just clicked. It felt amazing. I loved it. I thought it was a brilliant piece of writing.
Yeah.
I thought the company was fantastic. Rachel was a brilliant director. And Philly just wrote this fucking gem. And that's the incredible thing about Philly. Like, Philly's a good mate of mine, and I love him to death. He's a brilliant bloke. But fuck me, is he talented? Like, if you take Alice in Wonderland, and you put that beside Pineapple, and you put that beside Danny and Chantel, and you put that beside Come On Home, I'd fight anyone to go, 100% that's the same writer.
Yeah.
It's fucking incredible.
I think it's funny, because I think in Coming Home, what I find extraordinary about it was, A, it fitted so much in that building, and B, it kind of nearly subsumed the whole canon into itself and made it in something new. Do you know what I mean? It was like you had everything from Irish plays, that you would recognize, but that became something completely, within 5 minutes, you kind of go, okay. And then also the casting was brilliant, because the casting, I think there was, I think it allowed you to explore different areas of a character. It would kind of, but the ensemble piece, it was just, it was a piece of magic. I think,
I loved it. I mean, I loved it. And I had for years wanted to work with Declan Conlon. I had never worked with him. And he was kind of, one of my big time favorite Irish actors, like, him and Gary Lloyd, who I've never worked with. They're two of my kind of top drawer boys. I just think they're incredible. And I'd never worked with, at that point had not worked with Deck, and he was just phenomenal in that. And Ashley McGuckin, the whole cast was just, you've just gone to work every day going, you had to, everyone, it was like someone would do something, fucking hell, it would lift and lift and lift. And I loved it. I really loved it. I thought what Philly did, I said it at the time, it was like a playwright stepping out, filled with this kind of quiet confidence, going, here you go.
Yeah.
Real stepping out moment,
Yeah. And for you then, as I say, there was Peacock Game in our veins, another, in my opinion, another great writer, Lee Coffey, kind of, and
I'm a huge fan of Lee. I really am. I think he's done an incredible thing.
A very different thing for him as well. That was a move forward for him in his work. But I think, again, I remember talking to Lee recently and saying that the show was amazing, but for me, what was incredible on that opening night was the Dockers' response to it and the Dockers kind of being there, and that must have been incredible to be part of as well.
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. It was kind of like, and it was such a, it was brilliant because it was a young company as well who'd gotten themselves to the dance. You know what I mean? They got themselves onto the Peacock stage, and Lee as a young writer and Maisie directing, and then and with Amelia and Lee's company, and they got there, and it was brilliant. And on a fucking shoestring, I thought they really pulled it out of the bag. I loved it, and it grew on me. I didn't love it at the start. I was like, I thought the play was brilliant, but this is really going to be tough. Fuck all rehearsals and just a race against time. But really, I thought we did it justice, and I loved doing it. I really loved doing it, and I thought I was really proud of Lee, to be honest. But I think Lee's very special. I've become good friends with Lee, and I think he will go on to do really great things. There's a biggie in him,
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Come here to me, and then I suppose we'll talk about herself briefly in a minute. But in the last couple of years, you've kind of it's been regional, but at a big scale. So obviously Evening Train was an amazing piece of work down in Cork. And it also had the music elements to it as well. Which
yeah. Well, I'll be honest, I went chasing that job so harder than I've probably ever chased any job, because I had wanted to. I said to Paul Mescal, actually, when we were in London doing Play on the Stars, I said, listen to this album. I said, we need to make a play out of this. And I remember him going on about it. And that's actually how I found out that it was happening. I got two texts at the same time. Jer Kelly texted me going, are you in for Mix Yoke? Didn't know what he was talking about. And then Paul Mescal texted me going, you dickhead, you wrote that and you didn't tell me. And I was like, what are you talking about? I don't know what he's on about. And then I realised someone had got there way before me. Like, it was 8 years in the making, apparently. And so I was like, I remember ringing my agent going, get me in for that. I was like, I don't think you're available. I was, get me fucking in for it. Because and then I walked into the audition and Mick was there. I'm a huge Mick Flanagan fan, And I couldn't believe he was in the audition. I thought, I don't believe this. And I made a plot next to his songs. I thought I might get away with it because my Cork accent was all right. And anyway, I got it. But I loved it. It was unbelievable. Like, Mick was on stage every night. You'd really miss your cues because you'd be listening to him, He was just brilliant. He's a brilliant bloke. And Annabelle directed it brilliantly. She's a great director, Annabelle. She's a gutsy director. I think she's brilliant.
Yeah. And then on to a couple of shows recently with Gary, with in the Beacon, which is, again, I suppose the work. That's what I'm sort of saying. It must be a great pleasure to be involved in great work. You know what I mean? That kind of, like the Beacon and then the Cherry Orchard, they're like two very, very different things. But I mean, your career has moved between seamlessly right back, to Major Barbara, right back, between classics and modern. And is there did you like that? Did you like kind of having a sense of kind of getting the collar off?
Yeah, I totally do. The Beacon, I loved it. I just loved it. I thought the play was amazing. I think Nancy's brilliant. And I loved, again, it was an amazing cast. You're very lucky. I'd never worked with Gary before. I hadn't had the pleasure. And Gary blew my mind as a director, to be really honest. That's like, I don't think Gary's going to watch this. I'm not saying it for any reason like that. She blew my fucking socks off as a director. I couldn't believe how, I remember going, how the fuck have I not worked with this woman before? It's funny when that happens. I don't know. I just clicked with her as a director, particularly on the Beacon. I thought, oh my God, I totally don't know what it was. Sometimes that happens, I've had it a few times. I had it a couple of years ago with a director on a film set, and me and her were the same. It's just like going, oh wow, you just want to, and then then we did the Cherry Orchard, and to be honest, like I struggled with the Cherry Orchard. I really struggled. I did, I didn't. If I don't buy myself in something, then I struggle a bit. Now I struggle on, and I do my utmost, but I really struggled in it. I thought, maybe I'm not. Maybe that's not right for me, and that's a good thing in a way, And I won't realise how good a thing that was probably for another year or so, because it still bugs me.
Yeah,
it bugs me a lot. I find it really hard to get over something where I don't think that I was giving the account of myself that I should have been giving, or that I had enough, And I was a bit you know, I was a bit kind of, you know, you let yourself down a little there. But I'll always think that way, and that's okay. But I still loved it. I loved it. I loved doing it and all that, and it was brilliant and brilliant cast. But you sometimes just have to go because you feel like you're not getting to where, you know, where you feel like some of the other cast are. And when you feel like you're not getting there, it's tough. But that's the job. That's the lesson, and you have to get there, and you have to try and get there within that time frame to present that thing. Now, look, I was grand in it,
Yeah.
but I think it's really important to kind of not hang on to it for too long. And I probably should have let it go by now, but that's okay.
But I think, but I would agree. I think it is okay. I mean, not I just say to be kind of, you know, self-flagellating.
Well, you can't do that. You've still got a job to do. You know, it's.
But in relation to kind of having that mind to examine what it was in yourself afterwards that didn't work, and also you might realize actually that I was wrong, that it did work. It's just that I wasn't connected. You know, it was. You know,
Yeah.
I could mention. I mean, like also, you know, around that time we mentioned TV and film. I mean, wastewater was a kind of a big thing as well. That you know, and you know, being known. I mean, has that occurred for you at all? Like, do you get street recognition from things?
Yeah, I do sometimes. Yeah, it's funny. I'm not that aware of it. My wife often says to me, like, you can't be fucking doing that. Like, you know, the person's looking at you, and I go, well, they're just looking because I'm doing something stupid. And they go, they're not. You don't realise it. And I think she's full. Because you don't. I think if you're that self-aware, then you need to just give it a rest. Like, but I don't. We were out on a farm there last week, a couple of weeks ago with the kids, and it was like, you go around, there's loads of kids there, and they had this little spot where there was like blackboards, and all the kids are drawing and chalk, and there was one, we were with a couple of mates, and they had their kids, and there was one blackboard empty, and there was loads of kids with their parents on it, and I went over messing, and I drew a big Mickey on the blackboard, right? It's a stupid story. But this is going somewhere. And I drew a Mickey on the blackboard, and I went, Kim, look. And she went, God, fucking take that down. So then I kind of turned it into a horse, right? And she was, and there was an album beside us, and she copped it, and she wasn't happy, like, and I don't blame her. It was really stupid, but I was having to crack. Anyway, and the kids are going, what's that? And I was going, it's a horse. You know, my kids, not other people's kids. I said, what? And I said to Kim, so relax, nobody knew. It was grand. Like, she was going, that album knew. You have to realise that some people will recognise you. And I was going, well, fuck them then. At least they'll know I'm having the crack. Yeah. So, you know, it's like, I don't know. It happens sometimes. You know, it happens sometimes. Like, I played golf last week with a fella, and he was like, yo, yeah, man. And I was going, what are you talking about? Because I don't think of it. It's not something that's in my head, you know.
Yeah. I remember, actually, it reminded me of Rowan Atkinson was on Graham Norton, and he was telling the story.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. It's good, yeah.
I've been in the
car. I have had that. I have had that. You're your man. And you go, yeah. And they go, yeah, that's very good acting. And you go, no, I'm not fucking Brian Gleeson. Snake.
Yeah. Kabir, before I let you go, I said it must be exciting. You know, obviously you're kind of, I think one of the last things I saw in the cinema was for herself at the film festival. And then we went into this kind of, you know, for those who find us on the internet, it's kind of mid-August, and we're hoping to emerge into some type of new normality after a pandemic. But everything's shut down, so obviously the release dates will kind of change. But now, thankfully, it's going to be released in October. But I mean, that must be very, very strange to have something that you've seen. It's going to come out, and you know that it's going to be coming out now. So that must be exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. You know, it's strange. I always think, you know, with anything like that, that's the funny thing about film and TV work, because you do it and then you park it and then it comes out and you're so separate from it at that point. You've let go of it. Whereas with theatre, you can talk about what you're doing at the time to people who've seen it, and it's very immediate. But it's always so, you're going, yeah, I think I felt that way when I was doing it. Can't remember. Yeah. I'm delighted for Claire that it's coming out. People, I mean, it's a game changer for Claire. I think she worked her bollocks off to get it there, and fair play to her. She's brilliant.
Yeah,
I'm really excited about it, and I was quite moved when I saw it by what it was. I couldn't believe it, and like my character fleets in and out of it, you know. But you know, Philida as a brilliant director somehow manages to keep his shadow looming over the thing, and it's funny. I loved it. It was great. When I mentioned earlier about working with a director a couple of years ago who I clicked with, that was Phillida. She was unbelievable. I remember talking to Claire. Claire was like, oh, she's amazing. And she just incredible director. And I think the film is beautiful. And I hope it does great things for Claire and me.
Yeah, well, absolutely. How, like, as I say, we're kind of, we're in the midst now, kind of lockdown, where kind of things have become very, very, very different. I mean, beyond cutting your hair, like, how's that been for you?
Tough to start. Really tough at the start. Obviously, I have 2 young kids, so that keeps me busy. But it was tough at the start. I lost I was losing a few jobs at the start, and I was going, Jesus. And then I lost a job I was really excited about. I was heading off filming and for a thing that I was very excited about. Yeah. And that didn't happen. And I thought, oh, fucking hell, I can't believe that. But then, there's a weird solace in knowing that everyone's in that same boat. Everyone's losing gigs all over the place. And it doesn't matter what your gig is, because you're out of a gig, and it's very difficult. But no, my 2 girls kept me really busy. And obviously my wife is due to pop, like, literally any day with number 3. So we're kind of really busy with that. I'm just playing loads of golf. I play a lot of golf. So I've just been getting my handicap down. And like, that's been pretty much it. Doing a few bits around the house. We getting a bit of work done on we were getting a bathroom done and all that kind of stuff. But nothing crazy, just, but it's been in one way, I've done so much kind of moving around with work over the last few years since I had kids, more than ever before. That bit of time at home with the girls has been great, and my little one turned 4 there the other day, and the other one is 2, and another one on the way. And Jesus Christ, if I'm not kind of getting old looking, I'll be fairly old looking in a year's time.
You just saying there about 3 kids. I mean, I remember we had our last child was three boys, and we had 3.5-year-old, a 1.5 years, and a baby. And more than yourself, is kind of that year. I can't remember anything about it, but there was a necessity. There was a draw to be around your family, and I think that's not to be negated as well in one's life. There's what we do is important, but there are things that are way more important.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It gives you a little bit of perspective in that sense. I mean, also there's always the panic of, Jesus Christ, how am I going to feed them if this industry doesn't turn back up? But hopefully it does, and hopefully we all slowly get back to real life. Yeah.
No, and I think you're right. I think facing us is realizing that we're all in it together, and hopefully with the government will keep kind of putting the supports in, but also that the supports go to the right places. That it's about people realizing, and the public realizing, which half the reason we kind of started these chats, that it's not just about you or I or whatever, being on a screen or being on a stage. It's the people behind that, and it's also one's families. There's an awful lot of people involved in the industry that never get spoken about.
Absolutely. Like I look at it and I go, think of all, like, for example, doing Dublin School in Edinburgh. My wife was pregnant and had our first child really prematurely, and I ended up having to go forward and back doing the play. And if she hadn't been willing to go, no, you've got to do it, then we wouldn't have probably ended up getting picked up to go to the national, and then it probably wouldn't have got made into so there is other people who make massive sacrifices in order for the people that they live with or are surrounded by or love or whatever to continue this kind of crazy endeavour of working in the arts. So I do hope that that the government stick to their word, and I hope all that extra funding, emergency funding and whatever it is not fucking diluted down to something else by the time we actually are able to get our hands on it, But fingers crossed, and I hope, fingers crossed we're looking at, better times ahead. Can't get much worse, so.
No, it can't.
But I think it will get better, because I think it's a strong industry and it's resilient and it's full of resilient people. I love being a part of this industry in this country, It's great people, and I think people that do an awful lot more for it than I do. People, and I sometimes I say I should do more, but I don't, so I can't really else to back that up with. But there is great people who are the reason that we're able to still continue going along.
But also, you do what you do. Like you make great work, and that's
maybe, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you weren't making great work, there'd be no point in me sitting here going, "God's a great industry." Do you know what I mean? Like, so
we all need each other as much as totally.
Come here.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you go on that. And look to yourself and your family in the next coming weeks. Good luck on the new arrivals and all that.
Yes, Marco.
I'll chat to you in the real world soon, Ian, and look after yourself.
All right, mate. I better go anyway. I got to ring me dad back.
Go on, bye.
Good luck.
Bye.